Blood Surge will never beat a tier 100 dungeon. Wrong. Blood Surge Necro can't beat Uber Lilith. Huh. Double wrong. I completely overhauled the concept of Blood Surge Necro, giving it more survivability, incredible ultra damage, and all in all, just zooming through the dungeon like crazy. I promise you at the end of the video, you'll have the most efficient and most fun build in Diablo 4 right now. For the gameplay loop, either you just walk in and blood surge them all to death, which kind of works because of Wrathmist Vigor giving you an overpower every 12 seconds, or you blood mist in to create 3 corpses. One of these corpses will always be corpse tendrilled. That pulls everyone together, more crit chance because of your aspects, and then more multiplicative damage with your overpowers blasting everything into pieces. Don't forget to curse them once that your Bone Storm cooldown gets lower. As you're dashing, you're getting essence because you're using T-Bolt's will, and then you can just keep blood surging everyone. The final key component, Bone Storm with Lidless Wall, keeping up your barrier the whole time that you're overhealing for bonus damage, and you can just dive into any danger. Skill bar jam, beginning with Hemorrhage into Acolyte's Hemorrhage for the bonus attack speed, and mainly as a skill to also create some blood orbs. And don't worry here if it accidentally triggers one overpower, you have more than enough. All the points in Blood Surge, Paranormal Blood Surge for the 5 stacks at Overpower, and yes, 3 points in Imperfectly Balanced. It will cost a bit more essence, but you have the good essence production with this build, and the multiplicative damage is just too good. No points in Corpse Explosion, but 5 points in Blood Mist, so you always have this off cooldown. It comes in extremely handy, and then Ghastly Blood Mist for the bonus corpses that you always have 1 for the Corpse Tendrils. You do need the Decrepify for the 20% damage reduction and the crowd control, but also for the cooldown reduction, and then bonus damage versus cursed enemies, bonus damage and damage reduction versus close, and also versus distance though, because you're also exploding on distant people. And then we're maxing out all the blood passes for the bonus blood skill damage, overpower damage, a chance to fortify. We don't need this, but it's nice to have. And yes, we're still going for Blighted Corpse Tendrils for the blood orbs because we have another source of vulnerable, and we don't rely on the Plate Corpse Tendrils for vulnerable in this case. Now it gets interesting. Usually I would play Blood Wave to make all the blood orbs and then triple Blood Wave, but we are actually playing here with Bone Storm into especially the damage reduction and the bonus critical strike chance for more attack speed. Yes, attack speed is better. And then sacrifice bonuses with Memento Mori and even more damage reduction on standalone. And then last but not least, Wrathmist Vigor, wrapping it all up together. And yes, you've seen some Blood Orb production skills, so we can actually reduce the seconds until we get another guaranteed overpower. Here's getting super interesting, and that begins with the Lidless Wall. Yes, we want the bonus Bone Storms, also maximum life here, and a chance to restore primary resource. All works pretty well, plus the bonus in attack speed. And that gives us up to 20,000 life. Actually, the highest I've been is 22,000. Now for the ring, we're playing the Corpse Tendril aspect to pull things together because we want the bonus critical strike damage, and I'll get to that in a second. Here we're also looking for maximum life, overpower damage, physical damage. Potentially damage to close enemies would be a nice thing. And then on the second ring, we're playing the bonus Blood Surge. Yes, you want the second Blood Surge to go out and do as much damage as possible. You can see damage to close, overpower damage. I mean, damage to shadow damage affected, time affected enemies is, yeah, but I just have it on the ring. Now, one core piece is the Banished Lord's Talisman. That gives you critical strike chance, overpower damage, resource generation, all ranks to core skills, which is even more Blood Surge ranks. And then after you spend 300 of your primary resource, your next core skill is guaranteed to overpower. Doesn't matter, that's just a nice to have. But your critical strikes that overpower deal 120% multiplicative increased damage. So any critical strike that also overpowers goes crazy. We have a Bone Storm for bonus crit chance, and we also have the bonus crit chance from the Corpse Tendril's Grasping Veins. Now, if you don't have the Banished Lord's Talisman, you could also play deal more damage while you have Barrier active, because we constantly have Barrier active. If you put that on the amulet, that's also nice multiplicative damage. And you would look for an amulet that has bonus rings and Tides of Blood, because your blood skills deal 15% increased overpower damage. That one you can make even better. On the wand, dagger, or sword, we're playing Untimely Death. Each percent of your maximum life you heal beyond 100% grants you bonus overpower damage on your next overpowering attack up to 60%. Amazing. Critical strike damage, all stats, intelligence, overpower damage, damage to slowed, closed, core skill damage, all things that work here. Now, the second centerpiece of this build is actually T-Bolt's Will. Bonus damage in total, maximum resource is nice. Don't get any maximum life, that stings. Damage reduction from close, fantastic. And You deal 40% increased damage while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after. When you become unstoppable, gain 50 of your primary resource. That means we're dashing, Vampiric Power unstoppable, we're blood misting unstoppable, instant damage boost, together with the Banished Lord's Talisman, but always 50 primary resource. And that works so good, together with Blood Surge and the guaranteed overpowers, because every 5th one is guaranteed overpower. You dash, you know you get the bonus damage, you know you have the Grasping Veins Corpse Tendrils running for the bonus crit and your Bone Storm, and then you overpower and guaranteed 4, 5, 8 million hit. This goes together with your gauntlets. Whenever your blood skills overpower, you gain bonus attack speed, and that is important that you can do more blood surges in a row. But also, if you're actually out of essence, you can have then hemorrhage have super insane attack speed to fill you up again. Ranks and blood surge is a must. Willpower gives you actually bonus overpower. Intelligence is nice. Lucky hit chance is not needed here. Crit chance or crit damage would be good. And obviously you would want to have overpower here, but I just didn't roll it yet. On our chest, we will play Disobedience with a maximum life chest, damage reduction, and some other stuff. On the chest, you would play maximum life and damage reduction. The rest is optional. But we're playing Soulbrawn, which also gives us maximum life and damage reduction. Plus, whenever we have a barrier active, we get 20% damage reduction on top. So this in total gives us 40% damage reduction, and our potions give us barrier. Now that goes nicely hand in hand with each time Bone Storm damages an enemy, you gain barrier. That's equal to your life. So I can have 20,000 barrier going on my 20,000 life, on my 20,000 fortify, together with the huge damage reduction we're getting. Maximum life, total armor percentage is what you 100% want. Damage picking up blood orbs doesn't hurt. All stats, cooldown reduction, that would all be fine. Last but not least, we're playing Flicker Steps as my boots. That's for movement speed, all stats, damage reduction from close, because it's another nice damage reduction. And then each time you evade through, you reduce your ultimate skill cooldown. So I always have the Bone Storm active. I'm constantly in my enemies, constantly dashing through people, constantly reducing the Bone Storm cooldown with Decrepify and the Flicker Stab. Here's absolutely optional. You can put the Flicker Step off and just get a multitude of evades. That would be also fine. I'm just stuck with these boots for a long time now, and I can't just let go. Now again, heads up, this build does obviously work without these uniques, especially up to level 80, 90. But then when you're tackling Uber Lilith and Nightmare 100 dungeons, you will want to have these pieces. You will want to have the cool parts, but you can target farm them. And it's so easy to actually farm Hell Tides with this build. First Paragon, then Vampiric powers. We're trying to go for a lot of intelligence, but also willpower and dexterity. First glyph always be Blood Drinker because it boosts the armor here and also the damage. First is always Blood Drinker because it's It's boosting our damage quite nicely and our armor even more. Plus, you want the Fortify from your Blood Orbs to be maximum fortified. This brings us into the legendary Bloodbath board together with the control glyph damage versus stunned enemies, multiplicative higher, and crowd controlled in general. Here we almost pick up everything. So the damage while fortified, more damage while healthy, overpower damage, all of that. Follows into the Blood Begets board for the Blood Orb multiplicative bonus damage. And that here also has the Dominate glyph on 54 willpower, giving us a total of 427 bonus overpower damage so far. On the side, we have the Bone Graft board where we can pick up Tenacity for the bonus 8% life, 2% life, 2%, 2% life. And we can put in the Essence glyph here, which gives 22% increased damage to enemies that are not healthy with your critical strikes. That multiplied on the 120% damage on your overpower crits, fire. Lastly, we're getting up into the Scent of Death board for the damage reduction or bonus damage. As we're not actually dealing with corpses, we mostly have damage reduction going on. And the Imbiber glyph for damage while healthy. Finally, you could also play Amplify for the bonus damage against cursed enemies, or Territorial, which gives us more damage against close targets, and then damage reduction from close enemies again. Choose your poison here. Both are possible. It's a good note. Like if you want to put the Territorial in here, you see there's a lot of dexterity that we could actually clap into. We'd have to like remove some of the willpower notes here to just go for more. But I'm currently teared in on the Imbiber. Vampiric power is the most important one, Metamorphosis, so that we dash unstoppable, bonus damage, we go invisible too, and that allows us to apply even more Bone Storms. But the Unstoppable, but this is also Vampiric, and this is also Vampiric Curse. The Vampiric Curse being in this case our main source of vulnerable, and it works just fantastic as we're constantly zooming and dashing through people, dealing 16% increased damage to vulnerable and Vampiric Curse enemies are vulnerable. Having us then also create bonus blood boils, our core skills overpower. Having us then also create blood drops that explode when our core skills overpower constantly, and every 20 seconds we get another overpower. These blood drops can actually critical strike as they explode, so with more critical strike chance and critical strike damage and everything, they can go really good. Now as number 4, we're taking Hemomancy, and that is your attacks deal 80% of your maximum life as physical damage, 20,000 life, pretty cool. And we do heal. Very important to constantly overheal. And the last power is a little bit of an optional. We're already getting tons of healing and overhealing, so Undying doesn't necessarily make sense to overheal even more because that's what we're already doing constantly. So we could take Anticipation to reduce our cooldowns, but we could also just hammer in Domination for 24% increased damage to enemies who are stunned, immobilized, or frozen. And stunned is what we continuously do, and when they're also injured and not in elite, they're instantly killed. And that's quite cool, 35% and below, and suddenly one little blood surge soak actually destroys them. It's so damn well. For the Book of the Dead, we have resistance increase or critical strike. If your resistances are maxed out, you can take the critical strike. Skeletal Mages for the overpower bonus, and the Golem for bonus critical strike damage. Yes. Sounds crazy because we would always go for maximum life, but that ain't it here. Especially not if you want to do the super duper crit damage. I've never had more fun than with the Blood Surge without minions. With minions is going to follow Bloodlands destroying Lilith, or rather Tempest Storm beating every nightmare dungeon under a minute. Enjoy.